Hey everyone. Nathan and I had actually set out with the intention of having this interview last less than 30 minutes, but we got so caught up in the conversation that this went off for almost an hour. Instead of releasing one episode with 50 plus minutes worth of content, it's been split up into two parts. However, there was no natural midpoint as it wasn't intended to be a two-parter, so you'll notice that this video ends kind of abruptly. With that being said, I hope that you enjoy watching these two parts as much as we enjoyed recording it. Thank you so much for tuning week in and week out. And without further ado, here is part one of episode 7 of Getting to Know. But yeah, like for me, it's been this is the one where I really wanted to organize it because you're like honest to God, you are probably the face of the club. Like it's me in an organizational sense, and it's you in a spiritual, social sense. Like you are this unique individual within the club that has seen the beginning of both the co-ed and the men's team, and there is no one else
Right.
in this club besides me who started it. There's no one else but you that knows the beginning and has seen everything throughout. So that puts like you are the most unique individual, and that's a big reason why I gave you the Eternal Spirit Award at the inaugural annual party. So I'm very excited
Which
to have.
again, thank you so much. That was a very touching thing. I appreciate it. I still hold that dear. It's on my mantle right now.
Nice. I really like that. Thank you so much for joining, man. How have you been doing?
I've been good, man. I've been trying to stay busy while being inside. I'm a very extroverted person. So this has been difficult a little bit. There's been moments in some days where I'm just kind of like, man, I just want to see people.
Yeah,
You and Erica had actually mentioned before, like there's something about this that just doesn't quite cut it. There's an element to this that just does, and I 100% agree. Um, I've been doing a lot of Skype and Google Hangouts and other kinds of video, different kinds of chats, and it's great to catch up with people and get to talk with people, but it's just not the same, you know?
it's really not. There's something about, and that's I think one of my biggest takeaways from all of this is that there's something about the human connection, like just the presence. There is definitely. I'm not a big believer in all of that Zen Buddhist sort of yin yang auras or any of that, or at least I wasn't. Definitely after this, I have to consider that there's got to be something to it. There's got to be something to an external energy around us that people feed off, and you have a very, very positive energy. So it's no coincidence that people think you are, like, I think out of the 5 that I've interviewed, you've ranked in 3 of the funniest people. 3, every time I've asked the question, like,
Which is also very flattering.
yeah, like, who's the most hilarious club member? Like, 3 times I heard the name Nathan Pacheco involved, whether it was as an individual or a group answer. And people love you, man. People just, no one has a bad thing to say about you, which is very rare. Like I always hear maybe a little bad thing about someone here and there. You 100% never heard a bad thing about you.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. You know me well enough that you know there's some bad things, you know?
I don't think so, man. Like honestly, there's so much positive that I can say, and I've already said a lot of it, and I do want to get to know you. I do want people to get to know you as a person. So instead of just keeping on the mushy gushy stuff, I'm just gonna say, welcome everybody to episode number 7 of Getting to Know. Today we're getting to know the other Nathan in our club, Pacheco. As I said before, Pacheco has been with us not the beginning, but pretty much damn near the beginning. So the first season I ever did was with OSSC 16 weeks in 2010. Nathan the Pacheco here joined us the second season. We didn't do anything in the winters back then. The second season of the summer in 2011. And
do you remember that conversation?
I do remember that conversation. I'm going to save that. I'm going to save that for when we start talking about the first memories.
Okay. All right.
Because this almost didn't happen. Like you almost didn't happen. And I'm really glad that anyways, I want to talk about your stats because, within the club, besides me, you are the person with the most appearances. You are the defender. You are a defender. You have had 444 appearances over 58 teams since you joined us in 2011. And over that time, you've scored a few goals and assists. I mean, you are a defender, so it's down there. But you've won two
a tenth of what Tarek has, right?
A tenth would be too generous. You have two best defender awards as voted by your peeps. You have 9 league championships, including a Division I title with the men's team, Legion. And you also have, as I mentioned before, the Eternal Spirit Award. And it's called the Nathan Pacheco Eternal Spirit Award. Connor was the recipient of it this year. But moving forward, it is the NP Eternal Spirit Award. Just so that you're aware, it is named.
Thanks, man.
Again, thank you for joining. I do want to say that I'm very excited because I want people to love you even more, as much as I do.
Thanks, Seb.
So I'm just gonna the one thing I will say, my biggest, I was looking back on all of the stats and stuff. My biggest regret of all of this is that you didn't play with us that season we won the Division I co-ed title.
I know. Why wasn't I playing that season? I'm trying to remember. I don't remember if it was a school thing or if that was when I was over in Europe.
No, it was a school thing. You were in Europe.
School thing, yeah.
I think you were in Europe a little bit before that, and I do want to talk about that because that's one of the most interesting things that you've done since I've known you. But no, that because of school, you were doing the responsible thing. You were focusing on school. And that was the season. And it's really unfortunate because I look at that photo and the only person missing is you. So when we won that Division I men's title, I was really happy for 2 reasons. One, the men's team finally got a Div 1 title after losing in the final.
That was a long time coming for us.
We had lost in the final 3 times before that.
Yeah.
And the second reason is that I finally got to fucking win a Div 1 title with you. Finally. After at that point, it had been 50 teams. And after 50 teams, finally, I got to say, Nathan, we did it. We won a Div 1 title together. And that's a big deal for us.
Yeah, it is a big deal, yeah. Because we've played probably almost all 400 of those games together. Pretty damn well near it, I would assume.
Yeah.
we played a bunch of games together, so it was about time, eh?
Honestly, it was about time. And I love sometimes we just talk about the teams, and because you have context on all the teams and on all the history, you have so many good opinions on things. So we can go on for 2 hours talking about just stuff.
We probably could. There was a season there, I think I was playing for you 3 nights a week.
Yeah.
The Monday team, the Sunday team, and I think you had another team going. I was playing on that one as well. I would just say yes to you every time you brought something to me. I was like, oh, new team? Sure, I'm up. Let's do it.
Yeah, that was the peak. You were playing on the Sunday men's, the Sunday co-ed, and the Monday co-ed.
Yep.
I know I'm not leaving a lot of room for you to kind of elaborate because I'm saying a bunch of stuff. So I'm just gonna dive into all of this. How have you been keeping busy? Tell us. How have you been keeping busy in all of this stuff?
So we were talking before, and I said I'd bring it up here too. You had asked me to do this interview a few weeks back, and I had said hey, I'm just not feeling super positive right now, so I don't know how I'm going to be able to project all that stuff to you. Because my first week, I tried to still work. I work at Starbucks, and they had yet to offer like a paid leave, so I was kind of working through it. And then when they said, "Okay, we'll pay you if you don't feel comfortable coming in," I tried to keep working. And then I just said, like, I'm really anxious getting in here. People who are coming through are really anxious, and like you were talking how like you don't really believe in that aura kind of thing, but I do. So I kind of absorbing all this anxiety. So I came home and I just kind of sat around, watched Netflix, took naps, slept a lot, and then I realized like I got to kind of do something to turn all this stuff around. So I've been, we did some spring cleaning here in the house, threw out a bunch of or donated a bunch of clothes. We didn't throw them out. And we uncovered a bunch of gym equipment that we have. So I've been using that. So when I get back on that field, I won't be a potato.
Nice.
Being a little better. I'm realizing the importance of that I need to be going outside every once in a while, that just getting that natural sunlight and getting just outside of these four walls. So that's basically the stuff that I've been doing and thinking of like using this as a catalyst to kind of move on to whatever chapter happens to be next,
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that you kind of were able to pull yourself out of a funk, like that's a big positive. And just to kind of touch, like, I didn't used to believe in the aura. I definitely believe in it more now, but so I can appreciate how feeding off of all of that, because also you guys were one of the few Starbucks that were open in the city. So I know people were probably driving just to get their fix of Starbucks.
And people would say that when they got to the window, "Oh, I've driven 15 kilometers to come get my latte today." And I'm like, "What are you doing? Like, stay home."
Nothing better to do than drive 15K.
But you know what? That's probably it. That was their excursion out of their house, which, like, hey, that's fine and dandy.
Yeah, but yeah, I'm glad to hear that you're getting out of that funk. And I mean, the other thing that
And thanks for rescheduling this. I appreciate you accommodating that.
No, man, no, there was no way that I wasn't going to interview you. And like the other thing that you do that you keep consistent with is you do Fortnite with Oren, Jamie, Mike on Sundays.
Right.
And I'll sometimes join in whenever. But that's also got to be like a real positive in terms of being able to stay in touch. Like, have you been able to do that with other circles of friends?
Yeah, so that's one of the big positives of this right now is that I'm able to catch up with all kinds of people and friends because everyone seems to have a lot more time and now knowledge of these kind of video chatting apps. So I've been connecting with people who are in Europe, Sarnia, which is where I grew up. So I've been connecting with a lot of my high school friends, which is really great, especially connecting with people I haven't talked to in like 3-4 years who now have children and who are married, connecting over video games. As you had alluded to with Fortnite. I play Dungeons and Dragons, and we're trying to find there's several kind of ways you can do that over digital means as well. So some people we've now taken that digital too, and as a means of connecting. So yeah, it's really interesting to kind of adapt to this and still be able to connect with people, to now be able to reach out to other people, and that's the big positive to this that I'm taking away is that I'm having things like video game nights with the boys and video chats and whatnot with everybody else.
That's really amazing. Like, and just like Chris had mentioned in the interview before, I know that we're doing this before the launch of Chris's video, but like he said something that was finding the connection in the disconnection, like, appreciating connectivity now that we're not connected together and just trying to find different ways of achieving that. I kind of butchered what he said there, but that's kind of the essence of the idea. One of the cool things that I'm capturing from listening to you is that you have such a diverse range of hobbies and interests. Like, you're into footy, which is like an athletic thing, and then you've got your Dungeons and Dragons, which is more of a traditional like stay-at-home thing. But you're also very social. And back when we first knew each other, we also used to go out and party from on occasion.
Yeah.
And you're just like, you're a smart guy, you're a nice guy, like you got a lot of things going on for you, man. Like, it's really cool.
Yeah, man, it's I love hearing new perspectives and being introduced to new things. I just find it fascinating to try and find what people get out of certain different things. And like, even if it's not for me, I always like to like learn about it or at least try it,
And that must have served you really well when you went to Europe.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Because just if you're open to these new ideas that are suddenly being presented to you, and like I had gone over there because I was really depressed and really didn't feel like I fit in with the world around me. Now that could be
you went on your own,
because we're
right?
in Ottawa. Pardon me?
Sorry, before, because I want you to like really go with the flow of the story. I just want to make it clear. You went over there on your own.
Yeah, I went there by myself. I was feeling because we had a conversation about this prior to me going. I was like, "Hey, I'm thinking about doing this thing. Is there going to be a place for me on the soccer teams when I get back?" And you're like, "Of course, yeah. You've been around for forever." And I was like, "Okay, cool. That's great. That's good to know. It gives me peace of mind going over." I went by myself, and if you're open to all these things, all these people start showing you all these different ways to approach life or how they approach life at their home. So I did a pilgrimage called the Camino de Santiago, which attracted people from Japan and South Africa and Australia and all over Europe and Brazil. And so I met people from like all different walks of life. And it was just really interesting because while you're walking, all you can really do is either listen to music or talk to people, is hear all these different perspectives and whatnot. And it gave me a lot of perspective on myself and life in general, which was invaluable. I
Mm-hmm.
could talk forever on that experience.
That would definitely be something that, like, I keep talking about this podcast that I might end up doing once all of this disseminates and people are less interested in watching the videos. But the the just elaborate more on that for people that don't know. Like, we obviously talked about it, but like, what is this Camino? This, what was it called? The Santiago?
Camino de Santiago, yeah.
Yeah,
I
Camino.
know. I know you, as Chilean, are like Santiago is my capital there, but
Where was this? Like, tell us more about it.
it's a pilgrimage over across the north of Spain. The trails sprawl all over Europe, but the general main one goes from the south of France and cuts right across the north of Spain to Santiago, where Saint James the Lesser is buried.
Okay.
For me, I would consider myself more spiritual than religious. So this was more of a spiritual journey than it was a religious one for me. But there are churches everywhere. So thousands of people do it every year. It attracts people, as I kind of alluded to before, from all across the globe. And all these little towns have little hostels and things like that. So it's a real journey that tests you physically,
Mm-hmm.
mentally, and spiritually. So, and if you're in a hard place in your life and you just need time to kind of contemplate things, this is a perfect like metaphor for life. You're walking down this road to get to an objective, and you'll get there eventually. No matter how many days it takes you, it's not a race.
That's
So yeah,
pretty.
I got a lot out of that experience.
That still sounds really amazing. Like, how long were you there for? Like, how long did you take to do the trip?
So I started April 6th. No, I flew over on April 16th. I started on April 18th. I ended May 23rd. I stuck
Wow.
around in the area. I visited Morocco,
Ooh,
Portugal, and England. I was in each place for about a week after that. So I didn't come home till the end of June.
that's fucking awesome. Like,
Oh
I'm
man, incredible.
sensing a lot of jealousy emanating now from viewers listening. That sounds like an amazing
Hey,
experience.
go do it. I encourage everyone to go do it. It's unbelievable. Or to visit any of those places. I loved every place I went.
What's like one like first highlight that comes to mind on that trip?
The first highlight that comes to
Or like
mind is
or a highlight, any highlight that comes to mind.
again, it's just those like when you kind of take away all the stuff about life and about that like connecting with human beings and how it's so easy. Like people, you're just walking every day, so it doesn't matter what you do in life. It matters like, are you supportive? Are you a good person to talk to? Do you have something interesting to talk about? And at the time, because I'd been struggling to get my degree,
Mm-hmm.
because I'd been so depressed, I was really hard on myself at the time. People kept complimenting me and being like, "Oh, you're really organized. Oh, like you're really strong." And I felt like I was really out of shape. And I'm not an organized person. This. um, so I was like, "Huh, weird take on Nathan Pacheco right there, stranger." But after having walked so many days together, these people saw things in me that I didn't quite realize, and that I was starting to see in myself as I had taken step by step through this journey. So that by the time that I went to Morocco, and went on like a caravan riding camels in the desert kind of thing, and people are telling me that, you know, some of these nomadic people, all they want is an education. The kids, all they want to do is be like taken away by one of these foreigners to be brought to North America so they can learn, so they can come back and make things better for their people. I was like, man, I'm really taking for granted the things that I have in front of me.
Right.
So I mean, those would be my two big things of just kind of getting an appreciation for the things that I probably take for granted from day to day.
Yeah, like that's thank you for being so open and candid, like on this, you know. It is good to for people to know, like there's always a light, and there are different ways to kind of get out of whatever sort of negative spiral that you have. And it's not easy, right? But there's what you're talking about with people being very supportive and stuff. I actually recently read a book on self-talk, where the idea is basically like, even if you don't believe things, just hearing positive things about yourself kind of rewires your neural pathways and eventually orients your brain into that positive thing. Like if you're constantly trapped in your head of like, oh, and I'm not trying to say that depression just boils down to you having negative thoughts. Obviously, that's just one part of it. But I'm like,
Right.
I'm speaking to the point of like, to the specific point of like, you have these negative thoughts in your head, and I have them too, of like talking negative to yourself. You're very hard on yourself. Like, you know me too. Like I'm very, very hard on myself. Just behind closed doors. And so just you're feeding your neural pathways, and they're feeding that negativity. So the theory goes that, you know, you start listening to all the good stuff, you start telling yourself the good stuff, and then eventually your brain after a while starts believing the good stuff, and then it starts telling you, hey, you are the good stuff. And so there's a whole psychology behind it that's taken a lot of traction since the mid 90s, I would say. So it's very interesting.
That's why I think it's really important to be open and honest about these things and be able to share it. And I do find that difficult sometimes, especially when you're kind of in the middle of it. But once you've kind of start to process it and this and that, I think it's really important to like turn to the people that you care about and who know you and be like, this is kind of what I'm dealing with or what I have dealt with. Because then people can help you, like that rewiring that you were saying, remind you of the positive things that you bring to the table, or make them feel comfortable for themselves. It almost like it gives them permission to be like, oh my goodness, I also have this problem. It's so great to hear that someone else kind of deals with that. And then you both don't feel so alone in it. So I think it's a really important culture to kind of reinforce that it's okay to talk about these things. And that it isn't a sign of weakness for you, because I think we all struggle with it to some degree.
Yeah. I 100% agree with you. I have nothing more to add. I think you said it beautifully. You said it beautifully there. And like, I will freely admit, like one of the things I've been coming to grips with in this, like one of the challenges that I've personally faced is my thoughts, right? Like I do a lot of activities. I do a lot of footy. I do a lot of coaching. And now all of that is kind of stopped. And so, you know, you're kind of, and I'm framing it as a positive. Like, yeah, it kind of sucks that, you know, you have these thoughts, but at the same time, I've really been able to work on it and make a lot of progress. And it sounds like you're doing the same thing. So for me, like, I hope that people come out of this, like my biggest hope, and I'm going to ask you this right after, but like for me, my biggest hope out of this whole situation is that everybody to some capacity comes out more positive in whatever way that they can. Like I understand that that's not realistic for everyone because they're kind of, you know, there's different circumstances like jobs or anything that they can't control. But that would be my thing. Sorry, I was just looking to my left because I'm in an office and I have a puppy, and I keep my puppy here so that she doesn't chew anything out, but she just did something she's never done before. She stood up and tried to open the door, and I thought she was actually going to pull it off. Like I thought she was actually going to turn the knob. So that just happened, and then she just gave up. Thank God they don't have thumbs. Like she's smart. I'm starting to get scared of how smart she is.
Like that scene from Jurassic Park, huh? Clever girl. forget I got a sub on. So when someone's coming off and yelling sub, we're all looking at each other and be like, shh, oh no, they're trying to like get rid of their contract with you. You know, like what am I supposed to do? Sell them a charger for the phone they're not going to need? All my boxers and boxer briefs were in the laundry, so I was wearing like tight, like black tighty whiteies.